This young man took the lives of two sisters, believing he would gain £360 million. Oh, hi there, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman. For your discretion, as always, is advised. Today's case involves the occult and a so-called pact with the devil, so trigger warning because I know that some of you are not going to want to mess with that. The Venerable Mina Smallman is the Church of England's first black female archdeacon. Her two daughters, Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, were the victims of a horrific crime involving pacts with the devil and a teenage boy who dreamed of wealth and power. This is their story. Bieber was born on the 5th of June 1974 and lived in Wembley, northwest London. She was a social worker at Buckinghamshire Council, but this was more than just a job for Bieber, this was her vocation. She cared deeply about protecting vulnerable children and families. Her sister Nicole was born the 3rd of August 1992 and lived in Harrow, northwest London. She was a freelance photographer. Laid back and easygoing, Nicole was described as a joy to be around. Even though there was nearly 20 years between them, the sisters were close, sharing interests in the arts and enjoying time together. On the 6th of June 2020, Bieber and Nicole, who were 46 and 27 respectively, planned an evening at Friant Country Park in London. This was to celebrate Bieber's birthday, but as COVID restrictions were still in place, it would have to be done in a public space. It was decided that a picnic in the park would be the way to do it, and so amongst friends, they celebrated. They had blankets and cushions laid out, food and drinks, music and fairy lights and dancing, all the things you'd expect at a birthday celebration. And this is them at that very birthday celebration, dancing together, spending time and being happy. That photograph was taken just hours before they were brutally attacked. That evening wore on into the night and eventually all the friends left, but Bieber and Nicole stayed behind to enjoy each other's company. Nicole texted her boyfriend at just gone 1 a.m. telling him that they were dancing in a field. They took a photograph together at 1:13 a.m. and tragically that would be the last photograph taken of the sisters in life. By 1:26 a.m. someone was trying to access Bieber's phone without knowing the password. Daniel Hussein was born on the 10th of May 2002 and was 18 years old in June 2020. He was first brought to the attention of the authorities aged 15 when he was monitored by the Prevent strategy. That is an anti-terror branch aimed at preventing people from being radicalised. Hussein had been accessing far-right material. He was heavily into the occult and watched many videos from an American occultist and joined that person's forums. In conversation on the forum, Hussein was seeking advice and instruction on how to perform satanic pacts. He wanted to make a deal with the devil. He was told any pacts should be entered into with Lucifer's Rofocale, that the contract should be signed in his own blood and that it should all be done by candlelight. This would supposedly bring him wealth. Hussein followed these instructions by the letter, swearing to take the lives of 6 women every 6 months. He wrote that he would only sacrifice women and that he would build a temple for the mighty King Lucifer and then wait for his wealth and power. He made it part of the contract that he should never be suspected or caught by the law. In return, he wanted to win the Mega Millions super jackpot, some £360 million. His planning began in earnest. He ordered a balaclava and 2 folding shovels online and that same day went to a supermarket and bought a set of kitchen knives. He went to collect the parcel of the online stuff and once he had it, he made his way straight to Friant Country Park. He was wearing latex gloves on entry. We don't know exactly what he did, but it's safe to say that he waited around until the 2 women were alone. And again, we can't know exactly what happened, but it's assumed that Bieber was attacked first. She had no defensive wounds. She suffered 8 sharp force wounds and passed away. Nicole did have defensive wounds and had suffered around 40 sharp force injuries, including slash wounds. During the fight, Daniel was injured on his hand. He ultimately would overpower Nicole with the weapon and she too succumbed to her injuries. He then dragged the women by their feet into bushes and positioned them holding each other. The judge said this was to defile these women in death and to attempt to conceal what he had done. He then stole their phones and walked around the park trying to access them. When he couldn't, he threw them into a pond. And then he went home, arriving back at gone 4 o'clock in the morning. In the 10 days following the killings, Hussein spent £162 on gambling and lottery tickets, but didn't win a penny. By around 2:30 on the night they had their lives stolen, the women's family and friends were trying to make contact. Their concern grew rapidly and reports began to be made. I wish I could tell you that this was one of those stories where the police are a shining example of law enforcement, but unfortunately it doesn't go that way, strangers. Starting with the missing persons reports. For Nicole, they weren't progressed on the 6th of June, and for Bieber, one was not even created until the 7th. Police did not want to access Bieber's home. In fact, it would be 25 hours before they did. And that was after 14 phone calls from friends and family, and on the police's insistence that the family took responsibility for any damages caused. A call handler mistakenly referred to one of the sisters as a suspect to her friend on the phone. Whilst the friends and family were out searching the country park for the sisters, a friend found Bieber's sunglasses. She called police to inform them, and they told her to drop them into her local station. Nicole's boyfriend of 6 years and his family were searching the park for the missing women, and it would be him that discovered their bodies. I cannot imagine his pain, that poor guy. It was getting late, it was close to sunset at that point, and so 2 policemen were assigned to guard the bodies for the night. I'm assuming to preserve evidence. I can't think of another reason why the 2 women were left in situ for another night. Either way, much of the physical evidence was washed away by torrential rain, but I don't know if that happened before or after the discovery of the ladies' remains. So the 2 officers, Deniz Jaffa and Jamie Lewis, were given the task to guard the women's remains and presumably preserve the scene. I imagine the police would do this because there are some sick people out there and you wouldn't want those kinds of people around 2 deceased women. Unfortunately, the sickos were the ones being paid to stand guard. It was the police themselves. They posed for photos with Bieber and Nicole and used absolutely awful and derogatory terms that I would not repeat. They then sent those photos to WhatsApp group chats. Can you imagine this poor family as if they're not going through enough? They would eventually leave the force and go to prison. Oh, it looks like he doesn't want his face seen. That's better. They were sentenced to 2 years and 9 months apiece. After he'd taken the 2 women's lives, Daniel would have to visit hospital for the wound on his hand. He actually went twice. The first time he told them he'd been attacked by a group of boys, and the second time he told them he'd been mugged. On the 16th of June, he reported various transactions to his bank as fraudulent. They were the online order, the supermarket visit for the knife set, a transaction on that same day, and then the purchase of 3 lottery tickets. But Hussein had left the weapon at the scene, and so they followed the DNA evidence, which led back to his father. They had his DNA from an old caution, and then that in turn led them to Daniel Hussein. He was arrested, and amongst other things, they found the contract between himself and King Luciphage signed in Daniel's blood, the lottery tickets and other evidence. But he pled not guilty and so forced the family through the trial process. Thankfully, he was found guilty and sentenced in October 2021 to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 35 years. He was too young to be given a whole life order. Mina Smallman would later say, "The grief we feel is palpable. Our beautiful and talented daughters are gone. I think the notion of all people matter is absolutely right, but it's not true. Other people have more kudos in this world than people of colour. That's what gives me purpose, if their lives make a change in the way women are viewed, and black women in particular. In the pecking order of things, we are the lowest on the ladder." Rest in peace to Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman. Oh, strangers, this one got to me. I had a lot more to say about this story, but I could not fit it in. So as always, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And if you stayed with me till now, then thank you for watching.